G'day ladies and gents, welcome to War Thunder with Mags and welcome aboard the Focke-Wulf 190A4. Now the A4 is, well, it's one of patch 1.43's new prop fighters and it is yet another aircraft that seems to be being spammed heavily by the player base. So why is this plane being used so much at its battle rating? Well, once again, in what seems to be a running theme for new aircraft in patch 1.43, the battle rating assigned to the A4 does not correspond to its performance in game. Now, watching this battle in the background as I move in on this Hurricane, I want you to keep in mind at the time of recording this battle, I was 2 parts pissed. Yes, this is a drunk Mags demonstrating the flight capabilities of the 190A4. Now, to understand exactly how off the battle rating for this aircraft is, you need to compare it against its closest aircraft, which is the Focke-Wulf 190A5. Now, the A4 is battle rating 3.3, the A5 is battle rating 4.7. There's a 1.3 battle rating difference between these two aircraft. So, with that sort of a gap, surely there must be some major differences between the two planes. Well, first things first, let's have a look at top speed. At 648 kilometers an hour, fully upgraded, the A4 is 12 kilometers an hour slower than the A5. Its virage time, that is turn time under rudder only, of 22 seconds is half a second slower than that of the Focke-Wulf 190A5. And that's it. That is the only difference between the two aircraft. They both carry the same 2,776 feet per minute climb rate. They both have exactly the same gun loadouts of 2 151s, 2 MG FFMs, and 2 7.92mm machine guns rather. They have exactly the same ammo loads on those machine guns. 12 kilometers an hour and half a second's worth of turn time makes for a 1.3 battle rating difference. And unfortunately I wasn't quite fast enough in the background there to rescue Grievous, but I was fast enough to avenge him. Now Spitfire 2A has fallen in on my tail. I'm not particularly concerned about the 7.62mm machine guns it carries, it's just not going to do enough damage. I do take it into the vertical to see whether or not I can make it stall out. Unfortunately it manages to keep with me, so I just reverse the turn, push it back towards the ground and dive away. I can outrun it with no problems whatsoever. And as you can see, the shots it's putting into the plane, it's barely put a pink on the fuselage at this point. It just doesn't have the firepower to stop me. Now, comparing this plane to the Focke-Wulf 190A5, it does carry a small problem. The A5, in my opinion, is slightly over-tiered. In terms of performance, the Focke-Wulf 190A5 is probably 0.3 battle rating too high. It's a 4.7 battle rating plane that should be battle rating 4.3. However, with such a small performance difference between the A5 and the A4, that makes the A4 easily a battle rating 4 aircraft. And that is, of course, precisely why this aircraft gets spammed to all hell. This aircraft is Germany's F6F. It is a plane that should be tiered higher, that for some unknown and unfathomable reason is tiered far below where it should be in terms of its performance. You see, these Spitfires have no chance. Just critical strike him, and I don't even bother turning after him. I bring him straight around and go after the next Spitfire, light him on fire, put extra shots in just to make sure he goes down. And as you can see from the way the plane is flying, I'm doing most of this mouse only while drunk. Now, my overall opinions of the aircraft, well, it's a Focke-Wulf 190. It handles well. It does have the low-end Focke-Wulf 190 instructor wobble that all the non-long nose Focke-Wulfs seem to have. Another Spitfire comes through and I just barrel roll and pirouette my way through all the shots. It overheats in exactly the same way as all the non-long nose 190s do as well. As you can see, my oil temperature is up and my water is over, but the plane is just powered out of range of that Spitfire's guns, so reverse the turn and come back around. The only problem with the plane itself is its tiering. An interesting point to note, the only aircraft that give the 190A4 any form of trouble are aircraft that are similarly under-tiered in the other nations. So for example, I mentioned the F6F before. It will give the 190A4 a run for its money. The Russian premium King Cobras and the first of the Yak 3s will also give this plane a bit of trouble. But outside of those under-tiered aircraft, this plane is just a raging bull. It will go through and wreck everything it encounters in combat, with the only thing available to unbalance its performance advantage being poor player skill, or simply poor piloting. As the burning wrecks of the 3 AI I just killed go careening into the ocean, that brings this match to a close. So, first place for the team with 6 kills, 3 players and 3 AI. Grievous unfortunately had a bit of a bad run, getting swamped at the start of the match in his Do 217. 97,640 Silver Lions in 9 minutes and 30 seconds total. 3,125 research points, and the actual battle time, so the actual time I was in combat for this match was only 4 minutes and 25 seconds, so under 5 minutes of actual combat for 100,000 credits and over 3,000 RP. So yes, I do like the aircraft. It's a great plane. The problem is that the only way you'll ever find a really good battle in this machine is by running into a team that is also flying some severely under-tiered aircraft at its level. And unfortunately, that makes this brand new addition to the game yet another problem in the constant overcompression problems that low-end battles, specifically around Era 2, are suffering from in-game at the moment. So, moving on to the next match. Now for this round, we're in the brand new Yak 9. Now I'm on record as not being particularly fond of the Yak 9 series of aircraft, specifically the T and the K that we've had in game for some time, due to some inconsistencies within their flight model. However, I do want to say right now that I actually really like the Yak 9. It has the same problem, however, as the A4. So let's go through the stats, and this time we'll compare against the Yak 9T, as it's the closest aircraft to compare the Yak 9 to. So the Yak 9 is battle rating 3, Yak 9T is battle rating 4. Yak 9 will do 577 km an hour, fully upgraded, which is 16 km an hour slower than the Yak 9T. The turn time on the Yak 9 is also 19 seconds, which is again 1 second slower than the Yak 9T's 18 second turn time on rudder only. And once again, that is the only differences in pure performance between the Yak 9 and the Yak 9T. There is one additional difference between these two aircraft. The Yak 9 is only armed with a 20mm cannon, as opposed to the 37mm cannon the 9T carries. And that's something I find interesting, because these two aircraft are supposed to be identical in terms of airframe and engines. However, the aircraft that's carrying the heavier weapon system is actually faster and more manoeuvrable than the lighter one. The climb rate of 3,150 feet a minute is exactly the same for both aircraft. As you can see, once again, it's a situation where the plane is simply tiered too low for its performance. It needs to be higher. But why do I say I like this plane if I don't like the 9T? Well, there are some differences in how the aircraft flies to the 9T that you will not find in its stats, specifically in regards to how physics operate on the airframe. The Yak 9T, and by extension the Yak 9K, seem to suffer almost no control stiffening at high speeds. They seem to suffer almost no compressibility issues. G-forces do not seem to affect the airframe. I've never broken my wings in a 9T, regardless of how hard I pulled the stick or what speed I was going at. Now, I will admit I have not flown the 9T or the 9K in patch 1.43, and I probably won't, but it is possible that these aircraft have now had these effects applied to them. However, this was the reason why I had such a burning hatred for those aircraft. It didn't matter what game mode you went into. Realistic felt just as arcadey as arcade did. In fact, the flight models between arcade and realistic didn't feel a whole lot different. Thankfully, that is not the case with the Yak 9. The plane suffers noticeable control stiffening at higher speeds. It suffers compressibility issues in a dive. In fact, manoeuvring at low altitudes in general can be quite hairy in this plane. There are times when it feels like it just does not want to pull the nose away from the ground. And these little things you won't find on a stat card are what makes a plane in War Thunder feel like a plane, and it's why the Yak 9 feels like I'm flying a fighter, where the Yak 9T feels like I'm flying a Star Wars spaceship that's been stylized to look like a World War II fighter. Now, besides all that, exactly the same problems apply as with the A4. The only time you'll ever find any real challenging competition in this plane is when you encounter an aircraft that is also under-tiered. F6Fs in general are a really good match for this aircraft. The A4 is obviously another good match when you face the Germans. It doesn't have the Focke-Wulf speed, but it does have extra manoeuvrability. It has the standard Yak overheat problems, which can be easily fixed simply by pulling back on the throttle and then pushing the throttle back forward the second the timer comes up, and that'll buy you, a couple more minutes before you have to do that again. The only real drawback on the aircraft in terms of combat performance is its very low ammunition count, but again, this is something that is pretty standard across the Yak line. The pilots out there who really love the Yak aircraft for more than just questionable flight models will probably really enjoy this plane. And once again, it's a shame that an aircraft that feels so nice to fly, it performs so well, is an aircraft that is going to be adding to the overcompression problems at Era 2. So with 2 kills down at this time, I'm beginning my turn back into the combat zone. 1 F2A3 under my belt, along with a Hurricane 2 that I pilot sniped. However, after that I had to break out of the combat area. I had multiple F6Fs at altitude above me, so I needed to break out the distance and get some altitude ready to re-engage, which is precisely what I'm doing now. Now I'm heading straight in for the main group of fighters. I am aware that I have an F6F that is almost directly above me. However, there is an allied aircraft up there that is moving to engage that F6F directly, and I will be keeping an eye on it myself to make sure it doesn't drop in. Make a move on the Hurricane first. It turns underneath. I'm not going to be able to get it. Rather than continuing my turn through, just roll the plane out and head straight into combat with the next aircraft in sequence. Now the idea behind doing this is if you manage to kill one of the aircraft, excellent. However, if you fail to kill an aircraft, you do cause them to break out and go evasive, so you destroy the enemy's grouping. Good solid hits on the F6F. Unfortunately, he's going way too slow and I'm going to overshoot. Come very close to a collision there. Loop the plane straight over and re-dive. Just trying to get guns on target. There we go, fireballed. I don't think there's much chance of him pulling out of that, so go straight back for altitude, and sure enough, there he goes, into the drink. Kill number 3 for the match. Now I'll just keep climbing away from combat at the moment as I'm going for my altitude and try and work out where I need to engage next. We have an F6F on high, we have 2 Spitfires. The Spitfires are actually a bit of a worry with this aircraft. They are an equal match in manoeuvrability. And this fight has turned into a bit of a turning battle, so I'm thinking I'm going to have to knock out at least one of those. 2 Spitfires working together could be a problem. And it was very nice of them all to fly at low altitude for me at this point. It makes diving in on them so much easier. So it looks like the first Spitfire is peeling in underneath. It does look like it's got a fuel trail out at the moment, but nevertheless it is still flying. Now it does look like a Yak 1B down there is being triple teamed, and while it seems to be fine dealing with the Spitfires, that F6F is going to cause a problem. So I make a pass at him first, put a nice solid hit in, take it into the vertical and track him through the blackout, ready to dive back in on the target, and the Spitfires present themselves. Okay, time to remove one of those. That should have been enough. I'll just fly straight over the top, lining up the next target. Second Spitfire has gone down. A second Yak 9 has arrived, and we're now double teaming this Hellcat, which is a good thing because I've just ran out of cannon ammunition. I'm down to 54 rounds of machine gun. Now the machine gun is a 50 cal, but 54 rounds of ammunition is not a lot of stopping power against something like a Hellcat, so thankfully the Spitfire has gone down, which makes that F6F the last fighter on the enemy team, and we have 3 fighters in the area in order to deal with him. Now I have noticed, as he's done it twice so far, this F6F pilot is very fond of flying straight into the vertical until he stalls and then just letting the plane roll over. I'm not sure why the hell you'll do that. Just put some shots across his wings, and he dives away. Now that's a smart move to do when you're being engaged by 3 aircraft. Stall maneuvers do have their place, however against multiple aircraft all you're doing is making a target of yourself when you perform them. Now turning has its place as well, however when you're facing 3 aircraft that have vastly superior turn times than you, again this point in the battle is not one of them. I have a feeling this guy was fairly inexperienced. Now again he forces the aircraft back into a stall, and well it does sort of work from him. I wasn't expecting that turnout at the last second, but then again I wasn't also not expecting the second Yak 9 to come zooming through right in front of me. He pushes it back into a dive. My overheat timer has come up, but I'm not particularly worried about it. Again, a simple throttle down will fix that problem, and he tries to pull up again, and this time he loses his pilot for it. And at this point I'm going to edit out the end of the match. The remaining 2 aircraft, 2 B-25s that are currently trying to bomb out our base. From here on in, they go about evading combat and extending the battle out for an extended period of time. So we'll just skip through to the results. So after about 10 minutes of chasing them around the map, one of the B-25s crashed and we managed to corner the other one. My results for the match were second place for the team with 4 kills, 3 Shadow Strike awards, 2 Kill Streak awards, the best squad, and I lucked out with a 150,000 credit battle trophy, meaning this battle was a 200,000 credit victory. Taking that away, we're looking at 50,000 credits and 6,618 research points for the match. And as you can see, this plane was pretty much stock at the time. I've just unlocked the radiator. And it's at this point in patch 1.43 we're beginning to notice a little bit of a theme. It appears all the new aircraft added have been under-tiered to various degrees, depending on the performance of the plane. At this point I've now spaded the new Yak 9, and it is very much a 3.7 quality aircraft. As I said earlier on, the Focke-Wulf 190A4 is easily battle rating 4. But nevertheless, these both seem to be very, very, very good aircraft in their own rights, ignoring their BR problems. Their flight models seem to be fairly well finished. They feel like planes. They seem to have all the right resistances applied across them. They do feel very correct. Their current tiering, however, does make them very easy to spade, as you can see on screen at the moment. That is nearly all the unlocks. I'm short 4 from completing the aircraft. And I did in fact finish the aircraft in the very next match I flew it out, so I completed the aircraft unlocks in 3 battles. I could have done it in 2, but unfortunately I was team killed on my very first fly out of this aircraft, which prevented me from being able to do that. Anyways, ladies and gents, I'm going to call this one here. I hope you enjoyed the video. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more. Fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.